Hey all. So I'm going to attempt to explain what the controls do without it being this epically long demo. And I'm going to restrain myself from using guitar to help me explain what the controls do, because I've done that and it turns into like an hour-long explanation of controls. So it's not, this device, it's not just like a, fuzz pedal or something where it's like, this does this does this, this does this. Cool. No, this is a synthesizer and a effect pedal in one, groovy box. So anyway, I'll do my best and we'll see how that goes. One thing I wanted to point out, or just mention before this, I've been posting a lot of demos of the Dolmen lately, trying to show its versatility and stuff. And, I was reading everybody's comments. Everybody seems to be just as excited for it as I am. But I did notice there was a few people who had basically the same question, and it was, does the Dolmen make sound on its own, like without an input going through it? And I thought, why are people asking that? Like, what is it that they're hearing that's making them think that it's like some kind of like pedal with an accompaniment of like noise or something? And of course, I, having designed the thing and lived with it for like the past 15 years, I don't hear things with the same perspective as everyone else. So what I realized, though, was that some of the settings on the Dolmen completely obliterate whatever you put into it. It takes it and it mangles it and it splits it apart and does all kinds of crazy shit to it. So when you're hearing these demos, you're hearing this cacophony that seems unrelated to what's being played, and what's being played you can hear along with all that craziness, because the pedal has a clean blend control on. It actually has two that are, one's not so clean, one's so you're hearing this kind of normal guitar playing underneath this noise that doesn't seem like they have anything in common, but they absolutely do. It's just the extremes of what this can process, because it is an effect pedal. It's processing the input and turning it into different things. Now, there are times it can generate sound on its own when you're playing. There's certain settings that cause feedback. So even when you're not playing, you're hearing a feedback. You're hearing feedback create a howling noise of some sort. I'll show you. And there's also, it also has a special little gift, so to speak, that I won't tell you now because I want you to watch the whole video, and I'll show you at the end what's up. Anyway, let's get on to the controls. So everything in this box here, with the black knobs, black bezels, they're all associated with the modulation section of the circuit. Then we have this parallel control. This controls the level of the clean blend that goes through the pedal. It's actually a really great sounding clean boost if you are in need of one at any particular time. These three controls right here are like the mixer section of the pedal. This is the output of the modulation. This is Well, this is technically the input of the clean blend, but I'll explain that. I'll make that clear later. And then you have the master output, which is the master, volume control. Both of these go to complete 0, so you can have just the modulation, just the clean blend, or a combination of the two. Okay, onto the modulation. Drive. This is probably the most important control to get a good idea of what it does and its effect on things. What it is a level control for the preamp that drives the modulation circuit. And it has a few functions. First, the modulation section has a noise gate effect. So when you stop playing, it will sustain for some amount of time, or no amount of time, depending on how you have the drive set, and it abruptly cuts it off. What's cool about that is you can really get these awesome sounding like tape, like a tape deck being turned off, play and stop back and forth. It's because it's so abrupt, and because well, you'll have to see. See, this is the thing. There's so much about this pedal. It's like, well, it's hard to describe in words. So anyway, this kind of acts as a threshold control for that gating. If you have it all the way down like that, it actually, you'd have to really nail the strings to get it to go through. But this is intended. The whole pedal is set up so that regardless of what you put into the pedal will react the same if you want. So there's all these, these level controls that keep things wherever you want them to be. So anyway, so as you turn this up, your signal will get louder and fuller and become distorted. It distorts in this very murky, dark, kind of awesome way. And one of the things that happens as you turn it up, besides it getting louder and more distorted, it starts to push through the modulation. I'll explain that. So, some settings, the pedal's just doing so much crazy shit to your signal that while it's reacting to every note that you're playing, you don't necessarily hear those notes as clearly. But as you turn up the drive, it kind of pushes its way past there so that some of that fundamental that you're playing gets through to the outside. So, like I said, it's good control to understand what it does, and don't turn it all the way up and be like, why is this thing not do so much? It's like, because you have this up too high, you got to turn it down. Next we have form. This is like the mode of the modulation. Position 1 is kind of the main mode, meaning like that's the one that I designed the pedal to work around the best. It's a pseudo pitch shifter effect. But so pseudo means it's not a pitch shifter. It's actually a frequency shifter, like a Bode or Moog frequency shifter. So what you get is an effect that sounds like an in-between pitch shifting and ring modulation. So like chords get all dissonant, and even notes, like you'll be playing, you'll be like, oh wait, it's not playing the right note anymore. I actually at the Guitar Expo recently, there's this guy playing, and I guess he's never played something like this before, and he's like, I don't understand why the notes aren't the same notes that I'm playing. And I'm explaining to him, and he's like, do you know what a ring modulation? It was just like, he was just so shocked by what he was doing. I'm like, yeah, this isn't for you, buddy. Anyway, so that's what position 1 is. Position 2 is very similar, except it has this scrambled frequency thing going over top of it all. It's kind of sounds like an alien, like laughing or screaming or something, like an insect alien, though. And so your notes, the notes you play have a definite effect. Like if you play up high and low, it's different, but it doesn't. Your signal is going to get overwhelmed by the scrambledness, which is kind of awesome. But anyway, inside, like I said, this is just the output volume control for the modulation circuit. I keep wanting to play guitar to show you guys what I'm talking about. Shift 1, this controls the frequency of... This controls the frequency of the modulation. Along with the descend. There you go. The descend is kind of like a range control for it. So I'll show you. Position 1 of the descend will give you the most. Oh, I forgot about one thing here. Before I go to that, I forgot form 3. Okay, so I'll show you form 1, doing the pitch shifting thing. 2, same kind of thing, but with the scrambly. And then we have 3, which removes the modulation from it and gives you this like lo-fi distorted version of whatever is going into the pedal. But you can also get some weird actions from I'll just show you. You get these weird acoustic sounding feedback, but it's not actually coming from like pickup amp. It's not that kind of feedback. It's internal. And then these controls do very little. Alright, I'll stop. That's some crazy stuff. Okay, so where were we? This is a prototype and it acts up sometimes. So this internal switch that I was messing with is going to be an external toggle switch on the final product. What is this? So anyway, this drops it down in position 2. Gets rid. Of course, you can, since when you get it to the point where it is now, where it's just creating like rumble from what you're playing, you can bring in your either clean guitar or if you have a distortion pedal before it, you can bring in this parallel so that you can hear the notes you're playing still. See how nice it sounds? And then 3 completely kind of rips everything apart. So yeah, the artifact switches, kind of hard to explain what they do. Artifact 1 essentially allows you to destabilize the modulation circuit. When it's in position 1, it's in the stable position. 2, less stable. 3, very unstable. In that setting, you will often hear an oscillation of some sort going on because you're kind of unfiltering the power supply of the circuit, and that makes it kind of start going haywire. 2, when in position 1, doesn't really do anything. It's not acting on the circuit at all. But then 2 and 3 it's essentially, it's filtering a certain section of the circuit, but what you really hear is this hiss when you're playing, like this noisy hiss, but it also makes it brighter sounding, like. It also has some relationship with this other control. And speaking of the other, this is a thin, distorted, noisy version of the input, but it's inside of the modulation circuit. So as you turn it up, this signal will get louder and louder, and the modulation will get quieter and quieter. So you can't get rid of the modulation and just have this, but you can get pretty close. And the amount of distortion that this signal has is directly connected to how high you have the drive set. See how it kind of filters that? And most of the noise that comes from this pedal only is there when you're playing, except this leaves in And there's no, I know a lot of these lo-fi kind of pedals, which I don't really like considering it that, because it's far more than that, but, they do their thing as far as noise and wobbliness from either a microprocessor, or they'll have, some kind of noise generator built into it. Or there's the wobbliness is a chorus effect from like a delay chip. This has none of those things, but it does have some of those effects. So something kind of far out that I never even knew until I built one of the prototypes, the earlier prototypes. But so if you can set this so that it's not shifting up or down. If you bring in the parallel when you have it set like that, I'll show you. You get this chorus flanging effect. The reason for this is the two signals are A, out of phase with one another, and B, the modulation circuit has a slight delay to what it's doing because of, its process. So same thing, but not quite this not quite the same. You can get that chorus effect by bringing in the other. And you can get really intense versions of that by there it was just doing its thing on its own. And then again with this, you get a different version of it. Notice how the drive made the clarity of the modulation more or less depending on how high it was set, which is what I was trying to explain earlier. But okay, what else? I'm running out of time here. Got like 2 minutes. The presence. This is simply a low pass filter for the modulation circuit.